Two guys of Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Actually, it is bonus scoop time. That's right. So on this, 2 days after Christmas, Judd, Declan, and Darren Doogie Wolfson will have some reckless speculation. We will also deal in facts because Doogs does that as well. Of course, Doogs, if you have trying to place that friendly face, that guy shows up as an anchor on Channel 5 Eyewitness News Sports as well, especially this time of year. Hi, Darren. How are you doing? Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Judd. Hello, Declan. Yeah, funny how it works, Judd. I anchor maybe 35 days a year, and among those 35, a good chunk are in the month of December, specifically between Christmas and New Year's.
Well, you do a very good job and can spread the reckless speculation and scoops there too. Let's start with Vikings. So that this game that they're going to play now, Sunday afternoon in Green Bay, suddenly for the Packers becomes a very important game. The Vikings are still playing for seeding as well. We both saw them beat the Giants on a 61-yard field goal by Declan's guy, Greg Joseph. What can you tell me about who the Vikings will have and might not have for that Packers game as they gear up for that one?
Well, we know James Lynch, he's been rotated in, young defensive lineman, certainly not a starter, a guy that they can overcome missing, but he is out with a shoulder injury. The big one would be Garrett Bradbury. My understanding, Judd, is he's been getting a lot of treatment on that back. The back is feeling better. I look for him to be limited in practice Wednesday into Thursday. Let's see how the back responds. But at this point, like last week, I thought it was very much a long shot. Like when we spoke last Tuesday, I would have told you long shot that he plays, especially with the game a day earlier, although they had the full week, I guess, Saturday to Saturday, Colts to Giants. But when we spoke last Tuesday, I believe, maybe go back and check, maybe we talked about it off mic, wherever, it was always a long shot that Bradbury would play against the Giants. I'm not in that position right now to tell you it's a long shot. Like I think there's more than a long shot chance that he plays against Green Bay. I'm not ready to sit here and tell you, yes, definitively he is going to be on the field Sunday afternoon, but there certainly is a chance. Cam Dantzler's ankle is still messed up. Duke Shelley continues to play very well. So like, I wouldn't necessarily even think about Cam Dantzler at this point. I don't even know if the ankle will be better by mid-January. Like, if you just look at the video of him running around at practice last Thursday, like that ankle, or maybe it was Wednesday, middle of the week last week, that ankle, that left ankle, is clearly jacked. Like, it's not in a good spot, right? So you continue to run Duke Shelley out there. We'll continue to see, not for injury reasons, just for rest reasons, Harrison Smith come off the field. Josh Metellus coming in for a few series. I spoke with Harrison postgame on Saturday. He understands it. He doesn't like it. I'll tell you that much.
He's not a fan
of it.
He didn't look happy at all.
He doesn't want to come off the field, but he also said within the same breath that, hey, I get what Kevin is trying to achieve. We'll continue to see Brian Asamoah mix in for Jordan Hicks, for Eric Kendricks, Sezi Otamawu. His snaps are going to increase as well. So look for those three players to mix in, maybe even more so these last 2 weeks than they have even the previous couple weeks. And we've seen their snap counts go up the last couple weeks.
So let's talk about the play of the Duke. Duke Shelley has been absolutely, for what I guess could have been expected, outstanding. Kwesi's first draft thus far has not been great. I mean, we don't know. In 3 years, it could be fantastic. We have no idea. But what I'm saying is you did not get, and what hurts is your first and second round picks have given you nothing, basically. But that being said, this front office has to get a lot of credit when I believe a 6th round pick of the Chicago Bears, who got let go, is picked up, and then you plug him in and he plays like this at a position which, if you get exposed, you can't hide. Like, there's no, well, Shelley screwed up, but he was bailed out. I think it's worth talking about that this franchise and GM landed on a player who has been out of nowhere, really excellent, And you get credit when you are rating other rosters for late round picks or guys that didn't get drafted, and you find a guy like this. That to me is not being discussed enough, and it is really impressive on the Vikings part.
Well, go up and down the list. I mean, there's a few guys. TJ Hockenson, maybe that was an easy identify, but still, you deserve credit for not giving up a 1 for this difference-making tight end. How about Kyrie's Tonga? That was a really shrewd pickup. But on Duke Shelley, I'm with you. Like, you look at his PFF grade, like, how much would the Bears embrace having Duke Shelley, right? Although I think this was part of the Bears' plan. Ryan Poles, who, in an alternate universe, he's the Vikings general manager, not Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. But my sense is this was Ryan Poles' plan all along to rock bottom that roster. Chicago will have more cap space than any other team come March. So Chicago can kickstart the rebuild come March. But, still, you look at Duke Shelley, what he's accomplished. I mean, he would be the Bears' best cornerback, certainly healthy cornerback right now, but just heck of a story, right? I mean, even with his NFL experience, to come in here, practice squad, to prove your worth, to then get ascended to the 53-man roster, to then make a difference because you have to make a difference, literally because of bodies, Andrew Booth Jr., Caleb Evans, Cam Dantzler, different medical reasons for those guys being on the sidelines, right? And and Daniel Jones tested him at different points, especially early on Saturday. But Duke doesn't look lost out there. I'll tell you what, though, Judd, I had a nice conversation with him in the locker room post-game. I'm like 2 to 3 inches taller than him.
Yeah, he's
legitimately.
Like 5'9".
And I'm only 5'9 and a half, 5'10". Declan, he's not 5'9". There's no way because I'm 5'9 and a half, 5'10", maybe 5'10 and a half, depending on the shoes I'm wearing.
That's right.
I had a good couple inches on him. I'm not even sure he's 5'8". Now, I didn't look down. He was getting dressed. He threw on his sweater. So maybe he didn't have his shoes on.
I'm glad you.
But I'm telling you, I felt like he was 5'6"-ish. He is not a big dude, but he is incredibly physical.
Dukes, I believe he was evaluated for a concussion. I think he returned on that final series, but TJ Hockenson was evaluated for a concussion towards the end of the Vikings game. Obviously, a career day against the Giants and has clearly kind of emerged as the second best weapon behind Justin Jefferson. His status for the Packers game, is he going to be okay and cleared by the time things roll around on Sunday?
He should be, Declan. I mean, he held court with us post-game on Saturday. Lots of bright lights, the cameras were all in his face, and he wasn't fazed. I mean, he was able to string together words just fine. He was specifically asked about his condition, said he feels okay. So I imagine unless something went sideways late Saturday into Sunday into Monday, I fully anticipate TJ Hockenson being out there on Sunday.
And to go back to the defensive side of the ball, Dukes, Asamoah is an interesting case to me. This team, like among the defensive things that we can identify as a problem is Hicks and Kendricks are older players who aren't fast. And they're very good old school linebackers at what they do. So I'm not trying to say that they're not savvy, and I'm not trying to say that they can't be effective. But this league is now based on quickness, and the linebacker position is changing almost more and more to a safety, a hybrid. Asamoah was at one point in time in the first half, at least, rotating in series. So he'd be in for Hicks with Kendricks. Kendricks would then come out and it would be Hicks and Asamoah. You've got to think that this team is looking long and hard, though, at trying to find ways to play Asamoah flat out more, because the speed that he brings against the approach is absolutely perfect. And he might not be perfect in the pass game, but he gave up a pass on Saturday against the Giants, caught up to the guy and forced the ball out. I just got to think Asamoah playing more snaps, for instance, than Hicks is going to make sense come playoffs.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked by that at all. Not only did he force the ball out, he also recovered the fumble. You're right. I mean, another guy that I spoke with post-game on Saturday, you stand next to him, you're like, that guy's listed as a linebacker? I mean, just the body type doesn't scream linebacker. So you're right. I mean, the body is definitely more, not even strong safety, right? If you're going to talk old school, like free safety. Like, he's not a big dude, but man, can he fly. He can run. So, yeah, I'm with you, Judd. That would be something I would certainly keep an eye on. Let's see how he performs against the Packers, against the Bears. We will see Brian Asamoah a good amount these last 2 regular season games. Let's evaluate these last 2 on top of what he's done the last couple weeks, then see where we're at come the weekend of January 14th. But it's not a suggestion that I'm just, throwing out the window, right? I mean, definitely a possibility. And certainly it's trending toward a situation in 2023 where Brian Asamoah is going to be a starter, right? Is it at the expense of Eric Kendricks isn't here in 2023? I don't have the Jordan Hicks contract in front of me, what the dead money looks like. But I'm just telling you, Brian Asamoah as a starter, somebody playing 50-plus snaps a game, starting next September, that is something we are going to see.
Dukes, I think it's a foregone conclusion. If the Vikings beat the Packers and the 49ers happen to stumble against the Raiders, I don't see that happening. The latter part, I don't know if the 49ers will stumble against that Raiders team, but if it does, it probably is a safe assumption that the regular season finale will be a Nick Mullins and backup-led game for the Vikings. But obviously, if these two teams hold suit and they both win their respective games this week, I have to imagine the Vikings will still be playing their starters for a good amount against the Bears because they probably still want to be in control of that number 2 seed.
That's it, Declan. I mean, they internally have talked about the importance of being the number 2. That if you play this thing out, if you happen to play the 49ers, the 3 seed, in the second round of the playoffs, the weekend of January 21st, you don't want to go to Santa Clara. You want the 49ers here at US Bank Stadium. So that 2 seed is of uber importance to the Vikings. Now, it's the Bears, right? At that point, January 8th, could they be mailing it in? I know that the Bears went on the record on Monday saying Justin Fields is going to play these final 2 games, but could you mix and match pretty good? We're sure maybe Cousins gets some snaps, but Mullins still gets maybe a majority of the snaps. Is there a way to make it work where you can still win that game against Chicago while giving guys enough rest? And I'll continue to reiterate until game time on January 8th that the field surface at Soldier is horrendous. The Vikings need to be very careful putting guys out there because that surface it lends itself to all sorts of lower body injuries. So the Vikings are very aware of that playing surface in Chicago is as bad as it gets. So, yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, you're right, Declan. Vikings beat the Packers, eliminate the Packers from playoff contention. The 49ers stumble against the Raiders. I guess possible the way the 49ers are rolling right now. Not sure if it's possible. I wish the Raiders would have held on to beat the Steelers so they could still be alive, have a reason to really play that game this upcoming weekend. But yeah, in all likelihood, the 49ers probably find a way. But sure, in an ideal world, Raiders win, Vikings win, Vikings rest a ton of guys on January 8th.
Or how about this one? Eagles lose out, Vikings win out, Vikings will pass them, and you potentially could be playing for the bye.
You could, although, do you foresee a scenario where the Saints go into Philly this weekend and win? I don't, but maybe.
I'm just saying, if I'm playing for the bye, I am going, to the wall to get it. Like, that's the carrot.
That is the carrot, sure. If
give me the week off.
It's still there for the taking, Judd. Yes. All bets are off.
I mean, I'm
week
Justin
18,
Jefferson.
The Vikings go all in on beating Chicago if there is a scenario where they can be the 1 seed, where Philadelphia would have to come here. The Vikings don't need to go to Philadelphia for the NFC Championship game. Yes, I'm just telling you.
I agree.
It's hard for me, even if it's Minshew, not Hurts, even with Lane Johnson now dinged up, injury starting to catch up to Philadelphia. I still foresee Philadelphia, especially with 2 remaining home games, winning at least one of the 2, but I can see it happening this week against the lowly Saints.
All right. Every time it starts to feel like things are turning, they turn back. Your Timberwolves have now lost 3 consecutive games. They lost to the Heat last night in a very winnable game. Bam was out. Jimmy Butler was out. What are we to make as the calendar gets to flip to 2023? What are we to make of this team now? Because we are deep enough into the season where obviously some conclusions can clearly be drawn.
Well, yeah, I mean, 34 games in, we are approaching the halfway point.
Yep.
So, yes, you can start to formulate strong opinions. Now, in the same breath, yes, Miami down by far its 2 best players. Now, Tyler Hero is good, but there's a pretty nice drop-off Bam to Hero. So like clear cut, they're two best players. But in the same breath, the Wolves could have used Jordan McLaughlin, Kyle Anderson, Karl Anthony Towns. Trust me, they are better when Cat plays, not when he's out, okay? The Wolves now have a losing record in games that Cat has missed. Trust me, they are better off with Cat on the floor and even Jordan McLaughlin, right? You miss him and Taurean Prince for that matter. By the way, in Prince, that shoulder injury, Judd, and he's a tough dude.
Yeah.
But like they thought he'd be back 2 weeks ago. So there's been a good amount of silence on that one. Cat is still probably a good month-ish away. Like I think it's going to be late January. I've always thought he'd be back in January, but it's not going to be like the second week of January at this point. Like it's still going to be a while with that grade 2 calf strain. So I think it's fair to note that the Wolves are down 4 rotational guys that absolutely could help them. But last night you shoot 54%. Do you know how hard it is to lose a game, Judd? When you shoot like that, it just doesn't happen. It really doesn't.
Turn the ball over too much.
But you give up 64 points in the paint. You turn the ball over 22 times.
Yeah.
You give up all those second chance opportunities. To lose to that bunch, I mean, Judd, that's one of those. And Chris Finch isn't on the hot seat even. Maybe eventually. I don't think it's that far away from happening. But, like, that's one of those in a different situation where, like, you lose like that, where you might see some action. Like, seriously, you might see some action the next day. It's not going to happen. And I'm not suggesting that Chris Finch is even on the hot seat, although I'm telling you, maybe eventually, because there may need to be a fall guy for this debacle. But, like, that is one of those unforgiving type losses. Like, I don't know how you lose that game. Rudy Gobert benched down the stretch, rightfully so. Naz Reid was the better big man by far, right? I mean, it's just, it's been a disaster for a franchise that wants a new arena. We're still wondering, you know, what takes place with Mark Lowry, Alex Rodriguez. So we brought that up last Thursday, Judd. I don't know if you saw, there was a Sportico, which is kind of the new sports business journal outlet. So they're plugged in. It's a lot of the same staff members. They had a story come out on Friday. I don't know if you saw it or not, Judd.
I didn't.
But Lowry and A-Rod are still raising money per this report. Judd, I've tried to tell you, there are all sorts of questions.
Salvation Army bell out there
about that transaction.
Ding, 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 ding. Contribute to me so I can buy the time.
Well, the Salvation Army is down. Fun. They haven't been raising money like they have in the past. So everybody's struggling right now.
Salvation Army scoops.
I know. But, like, there are questions, Judd. Like, how did the NBA exactly, like, say yes to this Lowry Rodriguez transaction? Is Glenn regretting anything? Now, I don't know if I'll ever get a concrete answer on my first inquiry. On my second inquiry, I'm working on that. I don't have that answer. And I don't even know if that report is right, but I just know that Sportico is really, really good, right? The old Sports Business Journal.
Yes.
They are rock solid. So for them to suggest that Mark and Alex are still trying to raise money, oh my God.
Is Mark having problems too? Because you always said that Mark, you thought Mark was fine.
Yeah, I've always been led to believe that Mark can come up with the funds. But yeah, I mean, the story alludes to Mark and Alex both trying to raise money. I mean, it's just throw your hands up, right? And heck, you think about Tim Connolly. Remember the sliver of ownership he gets? It's more a bonus program per Glenn. The better the team does, the better off Tim will benefit financially. Well, guess what? Tim's not going to benefit financially after the Gobert disaster. I mean, I get it when people are suggesting if you're the Wolves, like you can never recoup what you gave up to Utah, but like bail on Rudy right now before the trade deadline. Like Chicago and Toronto, both teams that look like, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying there are fans out there suggesting that.
Okay.
Tim is not to that point. Here's where the Wolves stand on that. Cat and Gobert have only played together, 13 games, 14 games? Far too small a sample size to formulate any strong opinions. You can generate strong opinions overall through 34 games, but with Cat and Gobert, you really can't draw a whole lot. So the Wolves want to see those two on the floor together. But I'm just saying, like, your best chance to recoup anything for Gobert might be now compared to if you made the decision in the summer or a year from now. I'm just saying Chicago and Toronto are two teams stuck in the middle, much like the Wolves right now. And, both teams were in on Gobert in the summer. So I'm just saying maybe it fits more our Thursday theme, reckless speculation for Tim Connolly to call up Chicago, call up Toronto.
It's reckless.
And see, I don't foresee it happening. I don't foresee it happening. The trade deadline is what, February 8th? I see Rudy Gobert here February 9th. And I'm not stuttering on that. There's no gray area on that.
I can't breathe right now.
I'm just bringing it up as a talker because he's been such a disaster.
Yeah,
We've touched on it going back weeks, but
I got to text Phil.
He doesn't even block any shots.
Go ahead, Dex. I'm going to text
Like,
Phil
what does he do? You had to bench him last night. But the fact that you had to bench him, what does that say? The Gobert experiment so far has gone as bad as humanly possible.
Yeah, it's bad.
And he's made some clutch free throws, right? He's had a couple okay moments, even good moments, but the total body of work, right? I mean, you mean to tell me they wouldn't be 16 and 18 or better with Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, and Patrick Beverly, or whatever collection of guys you would still have? Walker Kessler, who's been really good for Utah? Heck, you'd probably be better than 16 and 18. I saw your tweet last night, Declan, that the Wolves need to play at what clip to hit the Vegas over-under, which, oh, by the way, I was wrong. I'm the idiot. I had them at 50 wins, 51 wins, not 56 or 57 like some others, but I had them at 50 or 51, so I would have taken the over of 49.5 wins. Declan, what is it? Because I don't see a scenario where they touch 49.5 wins.
Yeah, so they'll have to win 34 of the remaining 48 games, which is a 70 winning percentage. And just more context on that, the Celtics right now are the only team in the NBA with a winning percentage over 70. So basically, the Wolves have to play Celtics-level winning basketball between now and the end of the season to cash those 49.5 over tickets. So if you took the under, good for you. You're probably sitting pretty here.
Wow. I mean, when you lay it out like that, and have you seen the Wolves' remaining schedule? It is one of the toughest in the league.
It's as hard as their early season schedule was easy.
Correct. Now it's starting to catch up. Now, will Zion be back tomorrow in New Orleans? Herb Jones is in health and safety protocol, so they might catch a break or two against New Orleans. That's the league right now, Judd, right? Like, you look at a game 4 weeks ago at Miami, you're like, oh, crap. Butler, Adebayo. That's the league. Like, these guys just don't play 82 games anymore.
Yeah,
Nobody does. I'm not even sure a lot of guys play 78 or 77.
Pisses me off, dude.
Guys are sitting out on a nightly basis. So, like, will Chris Middleton be okay to play on Friday?
No.
When you're in Milwaukee. So I'm just saying the Wolves can still catch some breaks. Now, guess what? The opponent's catching some breaks with Cat not in there. I'm telling you, Judd, I can't stress it enough because I heard it early in those games that Cat missed when the Wolves were winning that, hey, look, the Wolves are better off without Cat. That's a bunch of baloney. Give me a break on that. The Wolves are so much better off with Cat on the floor. It's not even close.
Well, and like you said, though, Gobert being benched is a major story. I mean, that's a massive problem.
Well, I mean, that was D'Lo-esque, right, from the playoffs, right?
Yeah,
D'Lo got benched. We talked about it for many weeks. Essentially, Finch and Russell had to have a kumbaya in the summer, right? They had to mend those fences, right? You start to wonder, right? How does Rudy feel after being benched?
Okay, put a pin in that Thursday because Phil is going to have a ton to say. I just texted him this. He'll be very apoplectic, but also excited to talk about it. The last thing I've got for you is this. And just to be clear, so we are recording this podcast at 10:32 in the morning on Tuesday. Carlos Correa, there are now legitimate concerns from the Mets about his physical. As we talk right now, I have seen nothing that the contract is done, and I have heard that sides are trying to work things out. My question is this, because I think there are reports now that some other teams have come into the mix to inquire about Correa. Are the Twins one of those teams still? Do we know that? Do we have any idea?
Well, I'll tell you this much. I think that's from the agency camp trying to float that out there. Was that John Heyman who had that information or a colleague from the New York Post that had that information. Might have been Mike Puma from the New York Post, but colleague of John Heyman, if you want to connect those dots, which is okay. Hey, credit to John for having the relationship with Scott, right? I mean, he has all the scoops on the Scott clients for the most part. On occasion, Jeff Passan has one or two, but John Heyman owns Scott clients when it comes to breaking information, breaking news, right? I don't know, Judd. I will tell you, I've tried. Not like I went on some sort of Christmas vacation the last few days, so I have sent text messages.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of silence. I imagine, if anything, it's been Scott re-engaging the Twins like he did after the Giants fallout. That it's not the Twins calling Scott. It's more Scott reaching out.
Okay.
Will the Twins listen? Sure. But do the Twins have some strong questions after what took place now both in San Francisco and New York? Yes. It's not like the Twins are like, here, Carlos, take our 10-285, right? I mean, the Twins want some questions answered. It would be a very extensive physical, well beyond what took place in March. With a short-term deal, the Twins didn't have to do some sort of, detailed, deep dive physical on Correa. If you happen to give him a 10-year deal, it would be a very, 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 very extensive physical.
Ooh, my gosh, do I need to smoke right now? Okay, Dukes, we will talk to you Thursday. As I said, I'm sure that Phil is going to want to weigh in extensively about this Wolves stuff because it gets more and more depressing, but intriguing too. As far as you, we'll talk to you then. Thanks, sir. Appreciate all the scoopage.
I very much look forward to it. I'm telling you, it's not reckless speculation that Chicago and Toronto had interest in the summer. So I'm just saying, if you wanted to concoct some scenarios, remember, Cat can't get traded this year. So I'm just saying, if you wanted to try to recoup, because when could you recoup just anything for Rudy? Maybe, I guess, in the summer. But, at some point, would you get to the point of saying this isn't working? But I'm telling you, internally, they're not feeling like that. That's more me, taking the voice of some fans. I don't even feel like that. I understand where Tim's coming from, that when they've only played together for 12, 13, 14 games, we need to see those two on the floor together more, Cat and Gobert, before we pull the plug on this experiment. But so far, I mean, there's no other way to, lay it out. It's been an utter disaster. All right. See you, boys.
See ya.
Thanks, Dukes.
Declan, I'm taken aback right now.
I know. Well,
I never expected him to bring up what he did. So
no. Pretty it's been rough there. You know what? If I was Rudy too, or if I was a Timberwolves fan, I should say, not Rudy. If I was a Timberwolves fan, I'd probably actually would go to Lake Ridge Liquors in Vadnais Heights. I would stop on there.
Bear might go
694 in Rice Street. They got a 40-foot whiskey wall. They got plenty of wines in stock. They have Surly beer in stock for Judd. Plenty of options at Lake Ridge Liquors. Go check them out and join with the promo code SCORE. And they will enter you into your rewards program. You get $5 on your next visit. Go check out Lake Ridge Liquors in Vadnais Heights. And the sports bar of the sports dad, of course, Judd, is Park Tavern, just down the road from the Zolgad audience.
Yes, located right in SLP. And the great thing there is, so if you are looking to watch the games, if you are trying to find a Surly or a great beer, if you are looking for a bite to eat, or if you are looking to take a group or go bowling, guess what? Park Tavern has you covered on all of those things, because Park Tavern is the place that Sports Dad calls the place of fun. Now, I go to the bar and watch games there because, I'm Sports Dad. But again, if you are putting together a group for, I don't know, your wife or girlfriend's birthday or some type of party, 952-929-6810, 952-929-6810, or parktavern.net. Parktavern.net. That is your first step towards fun. Again, Park Tavern located on Louisiana Avenue South in St. Louis Park. And you know what? If you see me sitting at the bar, come say hi. We can watch some games, some hockey, some basketball, whatever sports that you like. Park Tavern. And again, parktavern.net.
All right, dude, we have some write that down predictions tomorrow we'll get to here on Mackey and Judd. Mack will be back for that. And also go check out Purple Daily. We have plenty of content there. We have Before We Die. We have Realistic Randy Rants. We have a full strength show as well. So plenty of options at your fingertips here as we gear up for 2023. We'll be back on Wednesday for some Write That Down predictions.